There we go.
Okay. Afternoon, folks. Welcome to Mala Game Reserve. We are streaming the Kambula Pride live from Mala Game Reserve. There you go. I see there's a lot of you guys that are joining the chat room. Welcome all.
There is Maya Mayet, welcome back. Hello from India, from Asmi. Mario Gabriel says sick live stream. Hello from Singapore. Hello Jan Duplessis. Hello from Spain.
So we're going to get the camera steady in just a moment. I just want to show you the position as well as who's with us today. In frame are probably the majority of the Kambula Pride. There are some more to our left over here. And just to give you some perspective, we are in the Sand River, very close by to the Sand River, which is behind us here to our west. And with us today, driving, is Tabisani Butalezi, otherwise known as Tubbs. And then Mike's already on the comments there as per usual.
Good afternoon, welcome everyone.
Okay, and I'm going to hand over the phone to Mike so he can get it nice and stable for us.
Okay, I think that's working.
Yep, let's maybe zoom in a bit. So.
Leon Mbangwa, this is my best Saturday afternoon without alcohol. I'm glad we're a solid substitute there. So while we're fiddling with the camera, some hellos from Zambia, Bradford in the UK, another from England. Hello Giraffe Girl and Miss Lapwing, welcome back. Tanzania Safaris as well, welcome back. And a hello from Durban. And Mrs. Lapwing, so in South Africa during the lockdown there's no alcohol at all allowed. So we've been a dry country now for 8 weeks? 8 weeks. We're all very impressed with ourselves and a little bit disappointed at the same time. And hello from San Diego.
Welcome Eve McCaffrey, welcome back.
Alright folks, so for everyone that is just joining us, so we're with the Kambula Pride. The bulk of the youngsters of the pride are what you can see in the shot there. Then the adults, some of them are just lying in the deep shade behind them. And then some of the other adults and one of the Gari males is off to the left of screen. It's again hard to see them, they're lying in the shade of a little bush. But yeah, we're right on the bank of the Sand River here. So we found them today not too far from the river, and then through the day they walked down. One of our film crews followed them down to the river and they spent the day here after having a drink. So we're hoping that they get up and do something exciting, or otherwise something comes down to drink. Just with where they're lying on the riverbank, anything approaching the water actually can't see them. So they would be quite lucky if some impala or zebra or giraffe perhaps came walking down. But where our vehicle is parked, we're actually right on the water's edge. If Gareth were to lean back a little bit, he'd probably get wet.
And SP Hansel saying they're cute when they sleep. We're glad you think so, because they might be sleeping for a while.
Myra asking which is the biggest pride in Mala Mala. So this is probably it. There's 20 of them. Then after them is probably the Nkuhuma pride. Huh?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I would say the Nkuhuma pride is maybe the next biggest. Then probably the Torchwood pride. I think there's 14 of them. And then I don't know who's the next biggest pride after that. Because it would be Kambula, Nkuhuma, Torchwood.
Don't know what Four Ways and Sticks pride.
Yeah, maybe the Four Ways pride if they are around, and then the Sticks pride would be my guess. Mrs. Lapwing asking, did we see where the northern Avoca from the other day went? He pretty much walked northwards along the Mawati River. We didn't see him crossing our boundary, but when we left him, he was literally on the actual boundary itself. Just after the feed ended, when we were leaving, he was kind of moving around. He roared once more and then just went back to sleep, but we didn't see any sign of him the next day in that area. SP Hansel, so there are quite a lot of elephants. It's quite possible we'll actually see some where we are as one of the more popular river crossings for the animals, and on our way here we did pass a herd of elephants that's 500-600 meters away from us, so they might come wandering through at some point. Yes, and Mrs. Lapwing saying poor Salala surrounded by two enormous prides. Yeah, she's not really in the greatest position, and we still haven't seen her. I think you were on the feed with us when the cub was found, but this evening, well, Peter's currently busy uploading our YouTube video of what exactly happened there when this pride, the Kambula pride, attacked her on the riverbank. But yeah, we've seen some tracks in the general area, and we've seen the cub in that area. It's just her that we've not seen yet. But I'm guessing she's just lying up in the shade somewhere, trying to heal up. Tie-dye manatee asking, do the older lions get shade because they are the seniors? That's probably a factor, but also I think they also just a little bit wiser. Just as we arrived, just before we started the stream, one of the lionesses was lying out in the open, sort of halfway between us and the cubs. It's kind of why we stopped where we are. But she did get up and move into the sun, but into the shade. I'm surprised at how exposed they are where they are lying though. It's still fairly hot here. Neri asking, how can you tell one pride from the other? So for me, with the lionesses in particular, it's actually very difficult if we just come across a lioness on the road to know which lion or which pride she belongs to. Can be very tough, unless there's some very obvious scarring or something like that. But one of the bigger clues is just where they are. Each of these lions has fairly well-defined territories, and they don't often stray out of their territories. Or they'll just be on the edges, if anything. And then with the male lions, it's a lot easier. Their manes and a lot of their scars are much more distinctive. These Kambula lionesses, though, they are particularly big lions. So you can almost just tell from looking at them that it's a Kambula lioness. So they're all about 7 years old now. We've got a very good idea of what they look like, a 7-year-old lion as opposed to a 15-year-old lion. So we'd kind of know as well just the general age. Giraffe girl asking about the Mangan pride. We don't really see them here. I can't think the last time I actually saw them. I want to say it might have been 3, 4, maybe more years ago. This isn't really their area. How old are the oldest subadults in the Kambula pride?
I think they're about 2 years old
Yeah,
now.
I want to say they're just past 2 years, perhaps.
Thank you, Neri. That's much appreciated.
And good morning as well to our afternoon. Carmel Verana, if that's how you say it, apologies if it's wrong. So the favorite food of these lions, I would say in the past, was buffalo, but we don't get that many buffalo here, mainly because the lions ate them all. But things like, probably on the top of their menu, or the most consumed anyway, is impala. But where with impala and zebra and wildebeest and that, they kind of get up and just start moving and hunt whatever they come across. Where with buffalo, they seem to actually go out of their way. If they hear or smell buffalo in the general area, they'll get up and kind of dedicate and head there. Where with the other antelope, it's just they happen to come across them. I did read ages ago an interesting study they did in East Africa where they put out a big leg or haunch of a zebra and a haunch of wildebeest meat side by side for a number of the lion prides to see which one they preferred between zebra and wildebeest, and it seems they always went for the wildebeest first. I'm not sure it was the most scientific study.
Sorry folks, I just want to point this out quickly. So I'm wobbling around a bit. But here's a Nile monitor lizard. And he was walking in the direction of those lions. He's decided to turn around. Just to show you something that's a little bit more awake than the lions currently. Okay, and back to the sleeping lions. Okay, so there's, well, I've got the camera off of the bar. I'll just show you where the other lions are. There's some lying in the reeds over there. And then back to the pile we've been looking at. And then there's one with his head up over there. And whoever was asking about elephants, there's an elephant behind us.
You see the giraffe?
To the right, and then a giraffe. Sure, can I see the giraffe on here? Let me try and zoom in a bit. Yeah, you can just see the giraffe's head there. It's quite light against the dark background. It's walking through the reeds there. So just to give you some perspective on where we are, there's a film crew there that has also been on Mala Mala recently filming, and they're just watching the elephant right now. Okay, so Mike, do you want to fix that there again? Let me just zoom out a bit.
Good.
Yeah, looks good.
Just there's quite a lag from one. Alright, sorry folks, we're just off the comments here for a second. Starlings, welcome back as well. So how old will the oldest cubs be when they have their first litter? So usually it's probably 5 or just a little less than 5. So a lot of these animals, when you're reading up about them, you'll see a figure that says sort of sexually mature versus when there it's actually a lot of their behavior. So just like dogs and cats at home and that, they will be able and capable of mating and reproducing at a young age, but in the wild it's normally at about 5 years old that they're truly capable of looking after themselves. So we see it's a similar thing with the leopards. So at the moment we have the Black Rock female and the Kirkman female leopards who are around on Mala Mala at the moment and are sort of establishing territories, but we don't expect them to have cubs anytime soon, or probably only closer to 5. So for the Kirkman female, that might be sometime next year or towards the end of next year that we'll expect her to have her first litter. The Black Rock female is 2 years old, so it's still a while for her. But yeah, we are interested with this pride, the Kambula pride. They're quite a big pride, and it's not really a sustainable pride because there's so many. So what might happen is they split into smaller groups. So Dizzy 1369, welcome back. I don't think it is the same elephants. So I didn't actually. Yeah, those are some younger elephant bulls. It was a big herd that was with these lions the other day. But yeah, we actually have a lot of elephants around. No, the one year when we were doing the helicopter counts, we counted 500 elephants on the property, and the year before that I think it was 650, but that was unusually high numbers because of the drought. But there's a substantial amount of elephants around. Giraffe girl saw a giraffe. Do lions attack rhinos? Asked Megan Lockhart. I have known, not here, but when I worked in Zululand, one of the lion prides there did attack the rhinos. Tubbs, you worked at Pinder. Did the lions catch rhinos there when you were there?
No.
Yeah, when I worked there, they caught 3. But yeah, so they're capable of it. It's just not part of their normal prey. The same as elephants. I saw a few people asking about the lions hunting elephants. It's really not something that they are used to hunting. The lions are quite capable of it if needs be. But yeah, I think these elephants are quite safe. They a little bit outside of the size range of what the lions could realistically catch. ATS Gem, that's quite an interesting question. What happens if they split into smaller groups? Are they still friendly to each other or become rivals? So what can happen with some of the very big prides is that they they live in the same pride territory. So we're just going to move the camera. One of the lionesses is moving about with one of the males. Oh. And they are a little bit too close for us to zoom out.
See how that lioness has chosen to lie in our shade there.
Okay. Sorry folks, I'm just going to try, there we go. So you can actually see now just how close the lions are to us. And I think she saw this nice shady patch. And where she's looking is down towards that other vehicle. And you can see just over the top perhaps of the vehicle close to the elephants is the giraffe's head sticking out, those two little white pixels there. So it's not impossible. You can just see the giraffe moving across there from right to left.
Then Blaise and Claire asking how are the youngest cubs doing. I haven't seen them today. Mike, did you see them earlier?
I actually don't remember seeing them this morning.
I'd
But
imagine
they're all
they're
lying in
okay,
this
and
pile.
I'm assuming that you're asking that because you might have watched our YouTube video where they struggled to get much of the kill. But I'm pretty sure they're okay. And then someone asking Mike, they assume that those are young rhinos and not adult rhinos that those lions are killing.
So one had actually was an adult, but it had been injured in a fight with another rhino. Then the others, the one was about 5 years old. And then the one rhino, actually the lions had killed a wildebeest. We didn't see it happen, but the lions had killed a wildebeest, and it looks like the rhino just blundered right into them. So forgive the camera being a little shaky. I just want to show you that giraffe now that it's out in the open. But you can see kind of where the lions are looking. And the giraffe is just coming into view down there. Do you see the giraffe there?
Yeah, giraffe's actually walking this way.
So there you can see the giraffe right in the sort of top corner of the screen.
One of the youngsters
And one of the youngsters
taken note of it.
So unfortunately, just with where these lions are, they're right in the open. I don't think they'll be able to sneak up on the giraffe.
So there's a question here from Fee the Dream Ali. Have you ever seen a lion kill a leopard? Okay, we're just going to let these two do their thing. I'm just going to kill two birds with one stone here. Someone asking who this male is. It's one of the Gari males. And he's currently, or he was part of a coalition of 5 male lions. He had 4 brothers. And it's currently him and his brother that are the remaining male lions in this territory. The other 3 died. But when they did come and claim this territory, they did kill just about all the territorial leopards, or some of the territorial leopards along this section of river. I don't know if anybody's...
Southern Avokas.
Was it the southern Avoca?
Yeah,
okay.
and then they chased out the southern Avoka.
Oh, right, okay. Did anybody see that? Someone's asking, has anybody seen a lion kill a leopard?
We didn't see it happen, but when we found the dead leopards, there were lion tracks all over it, all over the place around it as well. With the one leopard, the treehouse male, it was really brutal because you could see where he had tried to climb up a tree, and the male lions had actually grabbed him and pulled him down, and you could see in the bark of the tree where the claws of the leopard had ripped through the bark as he was being pulled out. So you could see these huge gouges going down the tree. But it was quite a difficult thing to see the next day because it was also, the treehouse male was a big favorite for a lot of the rangers here.
Welcome back, Mia Ferreira, saying you missed the last live feed. Glad to see you in this one.
I'll even wave.
And Rowan Raven yell, afternoon.
So I'm just going to tilt the camera around again. So the giraffe is kind of right behind all the lions there, just walking up the road.
And then someone's asking here, can't the giraffe sense the lions nearby? It is quite a warm day, so it's unlikely that that giraffe can smell the lions. I don't know if it's seen the lions. I don't think it's noticed them. They are lying in the open. But because it's such a warm day, the smell is probably floating quite high up into the air relatively quickly and not drifting down towards where that giraffe was.
I was hoping for a bit more excitement with the lions and the giraffe there.
And Jonathan asking, do lions kill leopards to eat them? It's not so much to eat them, but more because should a leopard come across lion cubs, it'll certainly kill the lion cubs, and should a lion come across leopard cubs, it'll certainly kill the leopard cubs. And they do compete for the same resources, so it's not so much that they want to actually eat the leopard, but rather that they're taking out the competition. To Soweto, Nadav Ossendryver, welcome. Then to Arjuna in. Hi to Gareth and Mike from Canberra, Australia. Hi Arjuna.
There's Nick right there.
Yeah, Nick is behind us in the vehicle behind us with the external film crew. And he is telling us that you were a ranger yourself, Arjuna, in Sri Lanka, I believe, and that you studied leopards. So it's always a pleasure to have you with us. And I'm sure you find this stuff very interesting. Then Starling's asking, do giraffes have bad eyesight? On the contrary, their eyesight is pretty good. And usually when they see predators, they stop and stare. And we didn't notice that giraffe stop and stare at any point at these lions. He may have missed it altogether.
And for those of you watching at home, you're also welcome to take some screenshots and like and share them. And we also, again, there's one of the little guys that's just poked his head up kind of in the middle of that pile of lions. And he looks fine there, it's just standing up now.
So Blair Sinclair, to answer your question, here's one of the youngsters looking a little bit skinny, but they always have. They have to compete against these sub-adults who are twice their age. And I reckon should these youngsters make it to adulthood, they're going to be pretty tough because of that.
The hard knock life.
Yeah. Camille Virana, do lions have good eyesight? They do indeed.
So with a lot of the animals, things like the eyesight of a lion, it's more keyed for light. So that allows them to see really well in the dark. And it's also particularly sharp vision, which is what allows them to see movement. where with humans, our eyes are more keyed for color. So you'll often hear people say animals are colorblind. It's not really that accurate. In a way, they can only see two colors to begin with. So with humans, it means that you can't see one of the colors that everyone else can see. With the lions, they wouldn't consider it colorblind because they can only see in two colors. But yeah, their night vision is very, very good. So they've got a lot more cells in the eye that can pick up light. But then also that tapetum lucidum at the back of the eye, that mirror which makes their eyes seem to shine back at you, also helps to kind of double the light that they're seeing. So it's, they're amazingly capable hunters at night because of that.
For things like primates and birds which eat fruit, it's more important to have color vision to see whether fruits are ripe or not, and to more easily identify fruits in trees. So for a carnivore, it's not all that important to see color.
Impala are always ripe.
Someone asking here, is the sand cooler to lay on or just more comfy? I think, they're lying in the sun, and that sand's pretty warm in the sun, I'd imagine. Maybe, okay, I'm just going to keep quiet for a second.
Not today.
I'd imagine if you dug just a few centimeters down into the sand, it would be a lot cooler, but I don't see any of those lions doing it. So I'd imagine they're just lying on the sand here because it's more comfortable and because they're close to the river. I'd imagine they came for a drink earlier, and to walk all the way back up the hill, it's just a waste of energy. Questions coming here. I'm just going to try and catch up on some of these. So Jennifer Russo asking, would they ever go into the water to cool off? Mike, actually, you posted that video on later sightings, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk a bit about that.
So I'm actually not sure. Some of you might be familiar with the Charleston lioness. So a lot of you will have heard of the Charleston males, the one that had the tooth hanging down like a saber-toothed lion. So him, what was his aunt, and I suppose nephews, and they'd killed a buffalo in the Sand River, quite far downstream from where we are now, almost 20 kilometers downstream from here, at the other end of Mala Mala. And it was just a very hot day, and afterwards, I think with all that exertion and that, they went and got into the river and were lying kind of just with their heads out. So the males as well as the lionesses, and then the cubs, which were quite small then, I can't quite remember, but I want to say 7-8 months old, were just running around and playing in the water. It was something you'd almost expect only dogs to do, but for them they had a ball just running up and down. But if you go to that Kruger National Sightings and just search Lions Beach Day, you'll see that video of them all lying in the river. So this one I think is just going off to join the others lying in the shade there.
Then Twisterweta Ilan Ossendryver asking, when was the last time they successfully hunted? It's very difficult to tell. You can see the male's belly is a bit bigger than the others. They might have caught something relatively small that he commandeered, but it's very difficult to tell when they last ate or when they last killed something.
So this morning, myself and Tubbs and some of the other rangers spent quite a bit of time tracking these lions down. But in that whole time that we were following their tracks, there was no indication that they'd actually made a kill. So I don't think they caught anything last night. But the last thing we know they killed was the warthog. That's our latest video to go on Mala Mala's YouTube channel. But that was a few days ago and nowhere near enough to sustain a big pride like this. I'm sure they've caught something between now and then. That was last Saturday, I think. Yeah.
Then Feed the Dream Ali asking, how do lions smell? I'm assuming you mean how well do they smell? They've got a very keen sense of smell. Most of these animals have much better senses than we do. And lions certainly do have a very keen sense of smell. And just a little by point, which is quite interesting, there was a study done with humans where they sent a number of humans to the gym, and then there was one human that they took swabs of that of those people's sweat, and there was one person who got into an MRI scanner and they let her smell all these different people's sweat, and they just had a look at the brain activity where it lit up, and then they sent that same crowd of people skydiving, and took the same lady, put her in the MRI scanner, let her smell the sweat, and it was the medulla oblongata that lit up, the fight or flight region of the brain, which didn't light up when she was smelling when they were doing gymming. So we've also got a very keen sense of smell, but maybe relied on it more often than we do nowadays, back in the day when we were running around the savannah having to avoid predators and use our sense of smell more. But these animals certainly do have a great sense of smell. These elephants are coming a bit closer from the south here.
So maybe people really can or smell fear.
Yeah. I think that was sort of the conclusion they came to.
Alright, I'm just gonna... So the elephant has just walked behind the other filming vehicle. You can just see him coming out now. Interesting to see if he decides to give the lions a hard time or not. I think he's just going to walk past in the same route that giraffe took. We'll see how the rest of the pride reacts, if at all.
Mia Ferreira asking, how long does a female lion carry her cubs before giving birth? The gestation period is about 110 days, am I correct? Yeah. James Bond saying, best way to spend a rainy Saturday morning, catching some live streaming at Mala Mala Game Reserve. It's very hot here, it's difficult to imagine a cold rainy morning right now, but I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And Starling's asking, are lions immune to snake bites or could that kill them?
So with this male lion here, the Gowrie male, I don't know if his brother is here or not, he was with him this morning. But their brother, so there were 5 of them originally, and one of the males was actually killed by a snake. So I don't know what type of snake it was. It didn't happen on Mala Mala, it happened north of us. So it is second-hand information. But yeah, apparently he was bitten by a snake of some species and died as a result. So that elephant is, or the second elephant is just wandering up the road now. You can see him just on the far right of the screen. So I'm so used to being on the comments and you filming that I keep talking to the wrong phone.
Peter Ferraro asking, is there a link to donate separately from the super chat link? Peter, I know Nadav has he started a
GoFundMe, I think.
Yeah, I think it's called GoFundMe. Just check on latest Sightings Facebook page. A lot of guides are currently out of work because of the coronavirus. we're fortunate enough still to be on site and under lockdown here. But there is, I know Nadav has set something up for anyone to donate to. It's a fund for guides that have all lost their jobs in recent times. ATS Gem asking, who would the biggest male lion you've seen be in recent years?
For me, it would be the Clarendon male lions. So just, I don't know that they're perhaps physically, all the lions that we see here tend to be quite big males, but the Clarendon males had particularly big manes, like very lush, well-grown manes, and they always seem to be in quite good condition as well. Some lions actually look quite scruffy. Talking to the wrong phone again. But these Gowrie males also are pretty big lions. I'd say on Mala Mala certainly they're the biggest at the moment. And then we were talking about it the other day, but the new male lions that are with the Fourways Pride are also pretty impressive lions. Like, I think if you want to see the Clarendon males, you can going full male lion. If you go onto Kruger National Sightings and just search Buffalo stops 3 lions fighting, you'll see the winners there are the Clarendon males. And then if you go on Mala Mala's YouTube channel and just look up Fourways Pride or new males with the Fourways Pride, you'll see that male who, like I say, I think might be a touch bigger than the Gowrie males.
Then see Andrew Sanders Art. I've just subscribed. Thank you, Andrew. Can you live stream rhinos here? Currently we aren't live streaming rhinos, and we are currently not posting any videos of rhinos on our YouTube page at the moment, but that may change in future, but currently not. See, and then Nadav is on top of it there, Peter, to answer your question, as he always is. It's called backabuddy.co.za.
Yeah. Alright, and then just for everyone that is joining us now, we're just right on the bank of the Sand River with the Kambula Pride and 2 of the Gowrie males. We can only see one at the moment, but I'm sure the other is here somewhere. And we're on Mala Mala Game Reserve. If you go into, or just Google Mala Mala, even if you go into Google Maps, and you'll see we're about 500 meters downstream on the Sand River, or in the Sand River from Mala Mala main camp. But are we hoping that they get up and do something exciting or something comes to them? We've had 2 elephants and a giraffe walk past on the game trail that leads to and from the river here, where a lot of the animals come and drink. But yeah, so far they watched the giraffe with some interest but didn't really do anything about it. And the elephants were just out of their league, I think.
And Mia Ferreira asking what kinds of snakes do we see normally? Well, I don't know if there's such thing as seeing one snake more often than the other. I think this year I've probably seen spotted bush snakes the most. But we get all sorts of snakes here. I think the most recent snake seen by one of us was a black mamba in Rattay's camp. Hi Sammy Jane, welcome. Tanzania Safaris. How many prides of lions are there? I also wonder how close are their home range from one pride to the other. So Mala Mala is 13,300 hectares big, and in the last couple of months we have filmed, I think, 7 prides of lions, and we know of another pride of lions that we haven't filmed yet, that we just haven't made it to yet, the Ifield pride. Yeah, this pride that we're looking at in screen has most of its territory on Mala Mala and dominates most of Mala Mala. The other prides are on the edges of this pride's territory.
If you go into Mala Mala's YouTube channel and look at some of the videos of the lions that we've put up, you'll actually see where we've mapped out the territory, so you can get an idea of which lions live in which territories. The other lion pride that we do sometimes see here, the Styx pride, we actually haven't seen for quite some time. I think they've moved quite far west of us. But yeah, they might well start to spend more time along the river going into winter now as all the waterholes start drying up.
Then Patrick Raymond Nowotny asking, on YouTube, is Kruger Sightings the same as Mala Mala? No, Nadav of Kruger Sightings has kindly let us use his platform to live stream from. And we can only live stream on about 10% of the property here at Mala Mala because we don't have all that much cell phone range. But Mala Mala's YouTube channel is separate to that of Latest Sightings. If you want to have a look at ours, just go to Mala Mala Game Reserve and you'll see a lot of other animals there that don't make it into the live streams just because they're out of cell phone range. And if you want to find out more about the different prides of lions here, you can also go to our website and have a look under the wildlife tab. There are game reports which tells you all about the different leopards and lions and predators that we get on the reserve. Then Memphis 5 Maid J asking any crocs in the river. At the moment there's some very big crocs in the river.
None that I can see immediately here.
Yeah.
I didn't actually realize this is a pool of water off of the river, really.
Yeah. There's just a question here, should you subscribe to ours? I don't know whose you mean, but I'd recommend that you subscribe to both Latest Sightings and Mala Mala Game Reserve's YouTube channels and any other social media outlets. Nadav has some amazing sightings on his channel, and we've also got some pretty good ones.
And then also don't forget to press that little bell icon. Like Gareth was saying, we don't always have animals in the same places that we have cell phone signal, so our live streams are pretty much ad hoc depending on where the animals were. Even if we find them in the morning, they might not necessarily be there in the afternoon, so it's quite short notice. So press that little bell icon and it will hopefully pop up on your phone and let you know when we are going to go live. Very often we ourselves don't know until we actually get to the animals and then quickly try and phone each other from the sighting or video call to see if it will even work.
And Marthy van Rooyen saying, who gets rid of the snakes that get into camp? It's whoever's unlucky enough to be closest to the phone at the time. I don't think many rangers enjoy collecting snakes, but Tubbs is one of them. He's in front here. He often gets called upon. Just not frogs, he says. It's quite interesting. I've watched Tubbs do the high jump. Probably jumped the length of a Land Rover when a frog landed just in front of him. But he's happy with spitting cobras and black mambas.
As you can see, all these lions just passed out at the moment. Oh.
Then Blair Sinclair asking, is the other Gari boy here as well? Mike, did you see him this morning?
I saw him this morning, I just can't see him now. I think he's to the right of us in the shade, sorry, to the left of screen anyway. But he hasn't really popped his head up just yet.
Then someone asking, have you met Coyote Peterson? I saw one of their videos in South Africa with the lions, and I think I heard one of you. That certainly wasn't me.
Nope.
No, not one of us. Then Oliver Matthew, MK, who is the new coalition with the Four Ways Pride? Know any background or just from the KNP?
Just from the KNP is as close as we know. They're not big fans of the vehicle, so it was two males, the one allowed us to kind of see him, but kind of growled at us and warned us off. And then the other one, we couldn't see him, but he also just growled at us. So we didn't want to press with them just in case. But we're hoping over time, because the four-waist prides themselves are very relaxed and their cubs as well. So we're hoping in time those other males get more and more relaxed. And it'll really be interesting going into winter now if the lions all start to congregate along the river. If they perhaps, well, let's see what happens.
Let's see if the gentle approach works.
Play it cool.
Mia Ferreira asking, when will you guys give us a night live stream? Mia, it's very difficult to film at night with a spotlight. It's just very difficult. You can't really see clearly on the camera. We'd need to certainly think about different gear if we were to try that. But yeah, that won't be anytime soon.
I know a few folks keep asking about perhaps zooming in and so on. And because of the lockdown, we haven't actually been able to get any equipment. So for Mala Mala to do these live streams, Gareth and I are using our cell phones. Gareth's phone fortunately has an amazing camera on it. But yeah, we haven't got any high-end super technical equipment, just 2 cell phones and a substantial amount of airtime.
Yeah. Then Third Shift Champ asking, how often do they mate?
So these lions, it kind of depends. So they will cycle every month, like most animals. So she will be available, say, to mate. But then, should she fall pregnant, she's pregnant for about 110 days. And then it takes her perhaps 2 years, or a bit more in fact, to raise those cubs to adulthood. So, like say these two were to mate now, and she did conceive and so on, realistically it would be perhaps 3 years from today that she would maybe be available to mate again. But what can happen though is if the cubs are killed or either killed by something or just don't make it, they don't survive, she'll be available to mate almost immediately again. So very often when lions take over a new pride and kill off all the previous male's cubs, those lionesses will be mating sometimes within the week with those new males, but they're not sure how it works, but they do seem to be able to control somehow whether they can conceive or not. So with the new males, they'll be mating quite frequently, and maybe after 6 months do they conceive, and that almost bonds those new males to them. It forces the new males to spend time with the pride, stay with them, and it also lets the lionesses know that these males are going to stick around, and it wasn't just a once-off, that they came through the area, chased out the males, mated, and then wandered off. Because the function of a male lion is to protect the pride's territory and keep other males out of the territory. The function of the lioness is to kind of raise and feed the cubs more directly. So they just have kind of 2 different jobs, but the goal at the end of the day for both is successfully raising cubs.
And then, who's that? Dizzy 1369, it is a Huawei. Asking about the phone. And then just for some of you that are asking about Mala Mala's location, we are wedged between the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which is a conglomeration of private game reserves and lodges, and between the Kruger National Park. So our western and northern border is the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, and our southern and eastern border is the Kruger National Park. And we don't have a fence on our property, and we have the Sand River that runs the length of the property. We're very fortunate with our location. We've got incredibly good game viewing here. Hi Bev from Cape Town. So we're flicking through, I see there's a lot of messages here. I'm just trying to flick through them. We will try and get to all of them. Linda from California, welcome back. And then Nadav just mentioning that we are looking into getting a signal booster, so maybe we can show you a few more animals. We're not sure how well it will work. I've used a very old signal booster that plugs into the wall, and we're hoping that the newer ones are stronger than, well, at least that one that I was using. But it seems like from all the reviews they are pretty good. Maybe one of you out there uses one and can tell us a bit about them.
Right, and then it's quite hard to see, but on the far bank of the river behind the lions, you might just see a little bit of movement. It's those elephants are feeding on the riverbank just behind them. Every now and then you might just see the movement from their ear flap, but the lions don't seem too bothered about it.
Then M. Wallace just asking about poaching. Do we have many problems with poaching concerning animals in the park? So what are the ways you combat it? So M. Wallace, just interesting, we've been in contact with wardens from our neighboring reserves and the like. I think wherever you are in Africa and wherever there's wildlife, there's a poaching issue, and I don't think it's a problem that's only localized in Africa. I think poaching is a problem all over the world where there's wildlife. But what's interesting since lockdown is the more organized poaching, things like rhinos and lions, has decreased somewhat. But bushmeat poaching is on the rise. Now there's a lot of poverty in Africa, and there are a lot of people, we've been under lockdown for 8 weeks now, so there's a lot of people that are coming to the end of their savings, and there's a lot of hungry people out there in any case. So it's kind of to be expected that smaller antelope would be caught to feed families on the edges of these reserves. We're pretty lucky here, just in a sense that we are quite far from any of the borders. We've got the whole of Kruger National Park to our east, and we've got the whole of the Sabi Sands to our west. But I think wherever there is wildlife, there is poaching, and the ways to combat it is to have anti-poaching units, people that patrol on the ground on a daily basis.
So I think just to add to what Gareth is saying, so obviously as a business we would love you all to be able to come here, but as conservationists, I'd highly recommend or encourage you all to try to visit all these natural areas and game reserves as soon as possible, because a lot of the funding for anti-poaching and that comes or is generated through ecotourism. So there's no tourism of any type in the world at the moment, but ecotourism relies, or these animals, the fact that they're even here and not cabbages or maize or cows, is that they kind of earn more via tourism. If tourism isn't an option, then a lot of these natural areas will disappear to whatever's the most economically viable in that area, whether it's farming chickens or taking photos of lions. Is kind of up to you whether you come and visit or not.
Then good morning, Christine Hobbs, asking, does this pride hunt at the same time each day? I wouldn't say
I wish.
Yeah, that would make life a lot easier for us. No, they're opportunistic, and they also hunt during the cooler periods, but we have seen this pride hunt in midday on some pretty hot days as well. And then someone just asking, and I like to talk about these lions, the Mapojos. So the Mapojos, just asking, didn't they live around our area? In fact, they were born on Mala Mala to the Arfield Pride, and they the Ifield Pride were kicked out of this territory by the Kambula Pride, am I right? They definitely used to hold this territory. I don't know if there are any prides in between that kicked them out, Mike.
It was the Kambula Pride chased them out.
So the Mapochos were born into the Ifield Pride. They became nomadic, and then when they claimed a territory, they came in from the north again and from the Mluwati area, and we called them Mluwati males here on Malamala. And yeah, we're very much in what was their territory back then.
I think that elephant behind them is getting easier to see just as he's moving along the bank. You can just see his ears flapping and that sort of the white of his tusks in the background there. And, you can see the lions are just not interested. It's not a threat, and they don't see him as food, so they don't really care.
Original Classics 1980 saying, looks to me the male lion looks quite slim. Is this okay? He's actually a little bit fuller than some of the other lions around here. But these lions vary in weight almost on a daily basis. Some days they look thin, and some days they look so fat they're going to pop. So they're looking in relatively healthy condition. He doesn't look too bad. And then Chris Souza saying Sparta, aka. So the Ifield Pride is also known as the Sparta Pride. If any of you have watched, I think the film's name is Brothers in Blood. I always get this wrong.
It's either Brothers in Blood or Blood Brothers.
Yeah. And Chris Souza saying they held almost all of the Sabi Sands. That is correct. And I think during their prime, I went to quite a few of their sightings, or spent quite a bit of time with them. They're certainly quite central to Malamala. Seen a dove.
Sorry about the shaking there, folks. I was just adjusting the camera stand or tripod.
Hi to Maggie and Gordon Higginbottom. Mayet asking, have we seen the Mapochos? Yes. I've spent quite a lot of time with the Mapochos. I think Mike and myself both did previous stints here at Malamala, and we both left and returned. It's very nice to be back.
So I never saw the Mapocho males when they were, big. When I saw them, they were from when they were kind of cubs, say from a few months old through until not 18 months old, about 18 months old perhaps. With their older brother who was just coming into adulthood at the time. The Ifield Pride at that stage was 22, if I remember correctly. So they were always going to be a big pride. But that said, this pride, the Kambula Pride, is also 20 of them. So it's quite possible that we'll see another big coalition of males come out of this pride.
Then Mia Ferreira saying, we are braaiing, and I'm sitting with the lead to charge my phone. This is how dedicated I am. Thank you, Mia. How about a piece of boerewors?
Yes.
Could do with a snack right now.
Even me.
So braaiing is just South African term for barbecue.
Would we do it with wood, not gas?
Yeah.
Tabs, have you seen the other male around?
Difficult to see there in the grasses.
So Love Three Dogs saying elephants hate all the large predators. Love Three Dogs, go and have a look at Mala Mala Game Reserve's YouTube channel. The latest video that we've released is quite interesting interaction between this pride and elephants. A little bit more interesting than the current interaction we're watching, but I'd certainly recommend it.
You're going to watch that video also, be sure to turn up the sound. When we first got here, there was some signs of life with these lions. The lionesses were up and moving about a bit. And now, I see that one youngster's just waking up, but I think he's going to go back to sleep in a second.
Okay, the Kambula Pride. Thanks for answering, everybody. This is the Kambula Pride we're looking at. It's the Four Ways Pride still here. I don't know if anybody's gotten out to that region of the reserve lately, but I know building up to seeing the actual Four Ways Pride, there were tracks there on the boundary, at least almost on a daily basis. So we're not sure if they could be on the property. I don't think anyone's gone out there recently. We are on quite a large property, and there are only a few of us out here. So, you know, once you find something, we kind of stick with it. And we don't explore other parts of the property as much as we would when we do have guests, just because there are far fewer vehicles operating at the moment.
So we've got a number of vehicles that are dedicated to anti-poaching, but only 2 that are dedicated to filming. So the property is 130 square kilometers to cover, so it's just a massive tract of land. You know, we're very fortunate. These lions, the Kambula Pride, they're a nice big pride of lions, so they are easy to follow their tracks, and then they also stick around in this area by the river too. So I just had the camera earlier on one of the younger cubs. You saw one get up and move about earlier. This is the second one. It's actually looking a lot better than they were a few weeks ago, and they're also scrawny.
Hi Mita, Karanth. Mita came on safari with me last year. It's good to have you back with us. That's not a baby elephant in the background. That's a large bull elephant. It probably just looks very small because it's on a cell phone camera.
So that's 2 of the younger cubs accounted for. The other one is just on the right edge of the screen now, but he's completely passed out as well.
Then Chris Souza asking, have we been able to identify those large male lions with the Four Ways Pride? Unfortunately not. Ali Reza, where's this place? It's Mala Mala Game Reserve. We border the Kruger National Park. If you look at the Kruger National Park on a map, you'll see there's a camp called Skakuza, and we are pretty much directly north of Skakuza. Good afternoon, Bradley Tomic from Safari Architects, also a regular guest at Mala Mala.
Is that a Freudian slip there, Brad? good afternoon chaos.
Peter just enjoying the audio of our latest episode. Original Classics 1980. Just saying this is so clear and close. Really fascinating jobs you guys are doing. Glad you're enjoying it.
That little sneeze you might have heard was actually the cub over there. I'm just going to keep the camera on him for a second. He's awake at the moment. Just see if we're going to get up and move around.
And then M. Wallace just asking, can you describe a visit to the park as my family is thinking of... Okay.
Shame, I think he's going to cough up a little fur ball perhaps.
Okay, M. Wallace, I'll get back to you.
There it is, folks. I'm guessing none of you thought your afternoon was going to end watching a lion cub cough up a fur ball.
So M. Wallace, just to answer your question there, saying, can you describe a visit to the park as my family is thinking of visiting after lockdown? So I'm just going to let this cub move around a bit and then I'll get back to your question. Maybe he does something interesting again. And I'd invite anybody that has been to Mala Mala Game Reserve to chime in here. But as far as the schedule goes, there are 2 game drives a day. There's generally a morning game drive and an afternoon game drive. And the game drives are earlier in the summertime for the morning game drive. You go out in a game drive and you come back for breakfast. And then you can lounge at the pool that overlooks the river, or read a book, or whatever you'd like to do, use the gym. And then there's lunch, and then you'd meet on the deck for tea time. And the deck overlooks the river as well, where you'll meet with your guide again, and then go on your afternoon game drive, which is a little bit later in summer, just because it's quite hot at that point. And as you can see, animals or predators don't really like to move around too much when it's hot. Some things do move around. Things like elephants might come and find water. Animals that rely very much on water might move around more so than other animals. In wintertime, you would wake up and have breakfast and go for a game drive after breakfast. And we'll see in the coming months how these lion prides become more active later on in the morning. Not become more active, but or remain active later on in the morning. So we generally go out a little bit later and sleep in a bit more, and then come back a little bit later. And then in the afternoon game drives, we leave a little bit earlier. But I would definitely say that the experience of being here, and we really hope you're enjoying this live streaming experience, but it is very different with all of the smells and the noises, and it's a lot more personal when the lions are walking right by you.
And flies. Never forget the flies.
Never forget the flies. Nice selling point. The flies taste delicious. But I don't know. I know Bradley's been here many times. I don't know if you could recommend that. They do. Maybe it's a little bit. Safari Architects does come here with many guests, but there are some other folks here. I'm just trying to see. Mita definitely has been here, and Arjuna. Don't know if anybody else has been here. Let us know.
The giraffe often goes to our neighbors.
So David D asking, why is the other pride called the Four Ways Pride? Do they cause all the fights?
Yeah, but
no, so yeah, they're called the Four Ways Pride after an area called, there's a crossing, or an open area called Four Ways Open Area, and there's also a crossing called Four Ways Crossing, and they are named after that area of the property. Then Maggie and Gordon Higginbottom, do we do any walks? We do walks. It's a little bit more pleasant in the winter time, and there's less grass for these animals to hide in, and also it's a little bit cooler, but we do walks. Rachel O'Connor, highly recommend it. I've been fortunate enough to be 3 times, the last 2 times with my children. Best game viewing in the world. We had amazing guides. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, we appreciate that good feedback, and we also think that this is some of the best game viewing in the world. Linda Musso, yeah, my husband visited Mala Mala over 10 years ago, and to this day he tells everyone it was the best lodge ever. Excellent feedback. Thanks, guys. We appreciate that. Mita had to describe the most fantastic experience. Brilliant. Original classics, real thing. Maggie and Gordon, once experienced, never forgotten. So addictive we came to live near the Kruger National Park. Maggie and Gordon came to live in my hometown. Daryl Tan, we were there 18 months ago, enjoying the game drives from home. We're very glad that you're joining us, Daryl. Then Arjuna, quality of wildlife viewing in Mala Mala is probably best in Africa.
thank you, Arjuna. We think so too.
Yeah. Nick is smiling in the vehicle behind us. Bradley Tomet chiming in there as well. Thanks, Bradley. And for any of you that have not been here, we'd love for you to join us. And I know it is our live stream. And of course, we'd love you to come visit us here. But we also just want to say, if you want to come and visit any of the other lodges or any of these parks, any visits will help us along.
I'm guessing that applies globally, not just for Africa.
Yeah.
That the more ecotourism there is, the safer all these animals will be.
And then Mrs. Lapwing saying, we need to go once the alcohol ban is lifted.
The sundowners are an integral part of the game drive.
Yeah.
That the morning coffee stops are a real win in the winter as well.
Then Weru Solomon, I think I'm pronouncing your name right, asking how does a Kruger fit into South Africa? He's asking from Malalaan to Eastern Cape, question mark. Actually, no, it's the southern part of the park is, the border is next to Malalaan, or just north of Malalaan, and then it extends north all the way to Zimbabwe, and also east into Mozambique. Andrew Como, I think that's how you say your name. How cold can it get there in winter? In Fahrenheit, please. Okay, I think someone's going to have to help us there with Google.
So it's whatever it gets to freezing, which I think is 32.
Okay, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah, so just a touch above freezing is the, yeah, I've been here when there's been frost, so
Yeah.
it is frozen. It's not pleasant at all.
But that would be the nighttime temperature. Otherwise, the daytime temperature is very pleasant. I'm not sure what it would be in Fahrenheit, but it's very mild in Celsius. And I'd imagine it's very mild in Fahrenheit as well.
Yeah, so we would definitely need to Google that, but we're using our phones at the moment to do the live stream on.
Yeah, so the daytime is very fair here. By about 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, you start taking the layers off. And you can wear shorts and a t-shirt up until about sunset. And then the temperature drops very rapidly. And you'd have to layer up again. Okay, Bradley Tom at 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Thanks, Bradley. Daytime like 70. Thanks, Meter. A lot warmer than where you are. Then Sean Huang asking what month is best to visit. Well, it depends on what you're coming for. That's every season has something special about it. The winter months are very dry. We get summer rainfall here, so everything dries up in the winter. And because of that, all the animals are forced to come and drink at the river, which stretches the length of Mala Mala, the Sand River. And because everything comes down to drink at the river, the predators lie in wait in the river, and there's a lot of interaction along our river frontage. There's less grass, fewer leaves on the trees. It's probably a bit easier to find animals because they're down at the river, and also because there's less grass for them to hide in. Having said that, the colors in summer when it is wet are brilliant. There are about 50 species more in summer with all the migrants that return, some of which breed here. And there are plenty of babies in the summertime. I know a lot of people come to view the babies, and there's far more frogs and snakes and insects. There's a lot more in terms of the smaller animals. There's a lot more color in summer. It's a lot hotter. There's also a lot more rain in summer. So it really depends. I've had guests that prefer the summertime. They like to see the babies and the birds and some of the smaller things. And then I've had guests who prefer the interaction, particularly that with the large predators. You tend to view more kills in the winter or late winter time, kills and fights. That's just because there's a lot of congregation in a smaller area around the river. Miss Anamandris asking are the Kambula girls bigger than the older Nkuhuma girls?
We've never seen them side by side, but I would think the Kambula Lionesses are a little bit bigger than the Nkuhuma Lionesses. They're just also more solid. Like they're just a little bit stockier. Oh. So there's another of the youngsters just waking up. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to see another lion cough up a furball though.
And Puisin, I think that's how you pronounce your name. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye. Superbike's asking, what was your best live experience? I'm assuming you mean what is our best experience when we are streaming live? There've been a few good ones. I'd say that's when the two Gari males had a little tiff over one of the females. That was quite entertaining.
Like I wasn't on it, but also when the lions are hunting, or this pride of lions was hunting the giraffe as well. It was the tension racketing up there.
And Arjuna N asking, any idea where the other Gari male is? I think they're both here, we just can't see the one currently.
So I can't see him now, but when we were driving in, I think, so I'm just going to try the old finger. Ooh, that's way too much. Somewhere over here is where the other male is, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this morning when we first found the pride, both males were definitely there, and then the film crew actually spent a lot of the day with them, followed them down to the river where they came to drink, and then I'm not sure actually if the other male joined, but I suspect so. I'd be surprised if he stayed behind.
In Mr. Zero, David Zero, I was there in 1995 to do my nature conservation pack and ecology. Loved the whole area. The whole Lowveld area is pretty spectacular. One of the major towns here is Nelspruit, and if you travel 150 odd kilometers in an easterly direction, you end up on the Mozambican coastline, which is a tropical coastline. You head north and east from there, you end up in this area, in the bushveld. If you head west from there, just by about 50 kilometers north and west from there, you end up in the Drakensberg Mountains, where there are a lot of trout streams and lots of very different environments in this area, lots of different ecosystems. It's a very stunning area. Highly recommend coming for a visit here.
You can see one of these youngsters is quite comfortable on his back there. And very relaxed.
BB asking, which predator would you say has the highest hunting success rate? Lions or wild dogs?
The wild dogs by quite a long margin. So with the lions, I want to say maybe 5% of their hunts are successful. With the wild dogs, it's here anyway, it's probably closer to 50% are successful. A lot of textbooks will tell you, or guidebooks anyway, tell you the wild dogs is 80 and even 90% depending on which one you're reading. But I think that's in a different area, different study group to here. Here I'd be surprised if it's as much as 50%. But yeah, it's probably not far off.
And Chris Souza asking how many, oops, here we go. Let's just watch what happens here. She's been denying the male so far.
So it's a bit of an awkward place for them to get to, or for us to get to, sorry. So you can see we've got the lions on this side of us, and then in front of us as well, there's a couple in the grass there, and then we have the river all around on the other side with a fairly good looking sunset. So we're a little bit stuck for now, but we'll just see once they're done moving around if we can't get to where those other two are. If they're going to do anything interesting, it's quite possible the rest of the pride will get up and follow.
So the other filming crew is just going to go have a look around the corner there, and they will update us. Then Petra Mari Bosman saying it would be awesome when they wake up to start to roar like they did the other day. That was also a nice moment on live stream. And yeah, we also hope so. Chris Souza asking, do you know how many male cubs there are? There are at least 6. Don't know how many. I think at a point of the 4 youngest cubs, there were 2 males and 2 females. One of those youngest cubs died. Not sure how many of those are males and females now. Mita asking any sign of the lioness that was attacked by the Kambula Pride and Garis. So that was the Marthy lioness, also known as the Tsalala lioness. She was attacked, for those of you that don't know, on Mala Mala just the other day. And we saw, was it yesterday or the day before that we had that live stream? It was the day before. So 2 days ago, actually, while we were having a live stream with the Northern Navaka male, Gareth, or Gnat, the other Gareth, called in the cub of the lioness. We have seen her tracks in that area, or at least we think it's her tracks. but we haven't seen her yet. Rosemary Bray, I've been fortunate enough to have had 8 safari weeks here. I love every minute. Was to have been there this week. You must go. Best money and best time ever spent. Thanks, Rosemary. We look forward to your next visit. And Mita, that fight that that I was just talking about will be uploaded probably today on our Mala Mala Game Reserve YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to see what happened there, just keep an eye out on the Mala Mala Game Reserve's YouTube channel.
If you really want to see, you can subscribe and click on the little bell icon, and as soon as we have finished uploading it, will pop up on your screen. It is pretty dramatic footage, I must say. Even having seen quite a few wild things, that was quite a sighting.
And then Christine Prescott, and then I just want to, Rosemary Bray saying you've also rebooked and coming back with lots of guests. That would be great. Looking forward to it. And then Christine Prescott, how do our Land Rovers do in all of that sand? Do we ever get stuck? They're actually brilliant vehicles in the sand, but yes, we do get stuck.
I'm just going to show you quickly how we got here. If you can see how close we had to drive to the water to squeeze past the lions. I have very interesting concerns about Tubbs' ability to get us out of here later, but we'll see. There's one of the other lionesses. So it does seem that they're all kind of waking up and getting into gear now. With the lions, unfortunately, that can be a very slow process.
So Maggie and Gordon saying, bet it's getting a bit chilly now. Notice that the sun has gone.
Yeah.
And it is, the temperature is starting to drop.
Especially here in the riverbed. It's getting cold. It gets cold very, very fast.
Rajesh Kadam, goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Zero, David Zero, how many wild dog packs are resident in Mala Mala area now? Wild dogs have a large home range and they move onto the property and off of the property very quickly. At some points you've had 3, sometimes 4 packs in the property, and then some points none. Yeah, so I don't know if there are currently any wild dogs on the property. But generally when there are a lot of lions about, there tend to be fewer wild dogs in the area. And in the last few months you've had plenty of lions about. There's someone, I think, let's see, I think I just saw a flash of a message. Like, I'm not reading your messages on purpose, but I think Pete just messaged to say that he's just uploaded that Kambula Pride fighting the Marthy lioness, so you can go and have a watch.
Well, Pete, if you could maybe put the link on for us then, that would be great.
And then Rosemary Bray just saying getting stuck in the sand or water or having a flat tire can be the best part of the ride. Right, Bruce? So obviously happens quite often with Bruce.
Be sure to mention that.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to get away with that.
I think, Rosemary, if you remember last year, you made me catch a bee off of your table. I was quite concerned for my own safety as well as the bees last year, because you came in the summer.
Aaron S., which coalition are the Kambula Pride? I know it's the Gari male coalition. There's only 2 that remain of the 5. Andrew Como, I'd love to drive for you guys. It is a lot of fun driving.
So you can see this lioness, she is quite alert and just looking around. So now at sunset is also often when a lot of the animals start calling. Because the air gets a little bit cooler and that it's denser, those calls carry further. And it's also everything starts to wake up now that the heat of the day has passed. So even if she doesn't I think she's just listening out to her sister that went around the corner with the male there. But yeah, so even if they don't actually react to any other animals that they might hear in the distance, they'll at least know. So maybe other lions roaring, they can just help to space themselves out so that avoid conflict if need be. If they're lucky, they might hear a leopard or a cheetah make a kill, and they can go and steal that. Or if they're really lucky, they hear a herd of buffalo in the distance, so and can go and mission over there.
Dizzy 1369 said she just roared. Maybe they're listening to her. Someone just asking, aren't there any impala around? Not that we can see, and I don't think any would be coming down to drink at this point. Maybe a few would come down, but they tend to drink more during the heat of the day. They prefer not to come under the cover of darkness here down to the river, so they're probably mostly heading to the higher ground right now, to open areas to bed down for the night. Although this lioness is looking quite... No, she's just looking around.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot more activity now. You can see all the sisters waking up. So what they're doing now is properly known as allo grooming, but it's really social bonding that's happening now. So being cats, the lions are more than capable of cleaning themselves, but they will want to reaffirm all those family ties now, and that after a day sleeping. I think this little guy wants to go and drink. If he's alternatively going to climb into the back of the vehicle, but we'll see.
Switch ends. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think it's fine. And now we'll all find out together if there's crocodiles in this pool of water. So he's right at the back of the vehicle. You can just see the tailgate in the frame there.
So Mia Ferreira asking what bird was that. There's a bit of a lag between us filming this and actually receiving these comments, and between the picture that you see, but there was a black crake calling just a moment ago.
And sorry for the camera shake, I was just moving the beanbag around. It's quite something looking at all those concentric ripples going out from where he's drinking. You try to get the artistic shot here. But a lot of people often comment on these cats seeming to be so thirsty when they drink, because they drink for such a long time. But if you look closer, you'll see, so he's lapping up water. When us and a lot of animals drink, we suck water up. So we actually take in quite a lot at a time, but this lapping, all those little hooks that are on a cat's tongue, the water drops get stuck in there and then go into his mouth. So he's drinking like a teaspoonful of water at a time instead of sucking up a glass at a time like we would. So imagine drinking a glass of water 1 teaspoon at a time, and you'll get an idea of why it seems to take so long for the lions to drink. It's not thirsty, it's just a kind of inefficient way of drinking, but at the same time that tongue is much better suited for getting meat off of bones and for grooming himself like he is now.
Then Superbike saying, how do you react if the lion climbs into the vehicle? Has it happened? It does not happen. These lions are pretty used to the vehicles, and we're just a fly on the wall here.
Yeah, we would react quite badly though.
Yeah, I'll definitely hide behind Tubbs. He's not scared of anything but frogs.
Yeah.
Then Jonathan asking, do crocs live in this water? They do indeed. And he just walked straight over to the water without, very often these animals take a little bit of time and scope the water out before they go and drink. I certainly wouldn't go and sit where he's sitting right now. I've seen some of the crocs around here.
He's having a full bath here.
Then a few people asking about the cell phone again. I think we should start asking for advertising out of the company, but it's a Huawei cell phone. Quality is very good. Dizzy 1369 Tubbs saying, hey, frogs can kill you too.
Tubbs has been telling us that for years.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to the lionesses. You can see they're all in a big pile just grooming one another there now.
Then Mita asking, how deep is the water during the summer? This river rises, the water level rises and resides very, very rapidly. So if there are heavy thunderstorms and maybe a number of days of rain, we would certainly not be sitting where we are. This river can flow from bank to bank. Okay, I'm just going to keep quiet for a second. Superbike's laughing at not scared of lions but bring a frog in its nose. It is very much the case with Tubbs. There are very few things that scare him out except for frogs. I think the other day he jumped out of the vehicle while it was still going when one landed in the vehicle.
I'll see what they're going to do, but you can see all of them are kind of waking up and grooming themselves at the moment. So one of the good indications that these animals are actually going to move as opposed to just wake up and groom is they do all go to the bathroom. So you saw that lioness now going to the bathroom. The other one in the reeds there also likewise just having a quick toilet break. And that's a very good indication that they are going to get up and get going. Will be interesting to see where they go from here. They're all kind of looking to the north as if they're going to walk up the river. They crossed the river last night to get to this bank and then kind of came back down to the river to drink and spend the day. But if they go north from here, they'll be going into an area where we've been seeing the Torchwood Pride. And they were seen maybe just over a kilometer, so less than a mile to the north of us. Was the Tortured Pride hunting around for some zebra yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see if the Kambula Pride realize and react to that.
Just Dizzy 1369 asking, are there carnivorous plants around? Not that I know of. I don't know if you guys know of any carnivorous plants here that occur naturally.
No, not really. So I think the mammals have got that market cornered here. So carnivorous plants are actually often in areas where the soil isn't particularly good, which is why those plants become carnivorous. So the soil isn't great here, but it's not that bad. So it seems like they're all getting up and getting going.
And Russell McLaughlin saying, I want to be there. Why don't you come out, Russell? Are you in camp? So Russell's doing some filming here as well. Not sure where he is right now. And Fighter Kyo asking, any flooding in that area during the rainy season? The river does flood from time to time. And it would amaze you to see this river in flood, especially if you've only been here in the winter time and it looks like just a trickle. But it does actually flood the banks. It's quite a wide river system, so it's amazing to see all that water come down. And then Dizzy 1369 asking, are there any in Africa though? Talking about carnivorous plants again. I would imagine that there must be somewhere with all those jungles in Central Africa. I think there's a lot of plants that maybe haven't even been identified yet. But I couldn't tell you offhand. I don't know if you can, Mike.
Yeah, there's none that I'm aware of. I think, I know, well, it's kind of...
Is it more dry and arid?
No, it's like swampy type area. It's like leach soil. So, I think, I know in the Americas there's quite a few, and I think you get the sundews in Europe. If I remember right, I was reading something, the biggest mass kill ever seen, or recorded scientifically anyway, was a field of sundews capturing a whole swarm of butterflies, but it was something like one of these crazy estimates of within a square mile 1 million butterflies got killed or something insane like that. But it's the largest one-off kill of a species by another species recorded.
Superbike's asking, what's more athletic, a lion or a leopard? Certainly a leopard. They are incredible climbers of trees, and they are certainly way more athletic than lions.
For lack to block the camera.
So Mike's still confused as to which camera is filming and which camera's got the comments on.
Alright folks, in a second we're going to start to follow. Tubbs, I think if you're going to put a jersey on, now's the time. Otherwise, let's see if we can keep up with him. Yeah, let's see if we can follow them. Alright folks, so we are in the Sand River bed, and the lions are moving kind of up the river bed. I'm hoping that the signal will stay. It might just get a bit choppy because we kind of in the valley here, but we'll see if we can stick with the lions and see what they do. Looks like they just moved to another space to lie down.
Andrew, thanks for joining us. Much love from MA New England. See you next time. Tubbs. Someone says we should start croaking to see how you react. Okay, here we go. Mr. Zero David Zero saying Genera aldrovona in northern Bots, only carnivorous plant I know in Africa. So I don't know, does that grow in the Okavango Delta? And
so I'll definitely look it up.
yeah, definitely.
It's not something I've ever really thought about too much. So these are all the youngsters here, and then in the back you can see one of the Gary males with that Kambula lioness who was trying to mate, and then you can't quite see, it's hard with this camera, but one of the lionesses is just lying a little bit past them and to the right, maybe 10 feet further on.
And Fighter Kior asking, is the female near the adult male in heat? She must be for him to be following her around like that. He has been trying to mate with her throughout this afternoon's live stream.
Unsuccessfully.
Yeah. Valerie, thank you for joining us, and you're welcome. We are really grateful to be here, and we enjoy sharing this with you. And Sheila Muir, love Mala Mala, hope to get back soon. We've really enjoying the ranges in isolation and Kruger sightings. Thanks from Amelia Island, Florida, USA. Thank you, Sheila. We appreciate that comment.
So I had high hopes for them getting going. I think they're just listening out at the moment. They're not exactly going back to sleep, or the youngsters are going back to sleep, but the adults are at least awake. And I think for those of you that are regular viewers, so it was 17:20, or sorry, 20 past 5 that they started to move about. You can maybe remember that for next time we're trying to guess when these things are going to wake up. But it was almost within 10 minutes of the sunset here, or the sun going down behind the mountains.
So Russell McLaughlin asking, have you called Bumba stations on the live stream yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. We're hoping for that. But yeah, Russell watched this pride hunt a buffalo last year after we told him that they don't hunt buffalo. So we had watched them hunt buffalo on numerous occasions.
But they don't successfully hunt buffalo.
Yeah. So that buffalo just ended up chasing these lions away time after time. And eventually they did catch one, and Russell was there to witness it. And he was actually there to witness it very close to where that lion fight happened just a few days ago between the Kambula pride and the Marthy pride, or Marthy lioness.
And he filmed that too.
And yeah, and you managed to film that as well. Dylan Morgan asking, when last did they hunt? We can't be sure, Dylan. I think Gareth and Nuttall Smith, or G-Nut, watched them kill a warthog about a week ago. But I'm pretty sure they've killed quite a few animals since then. They don't look very well fed. But, you know, an impala or two doesn't go a long way in a pride this size.
And I think the lions are actually having a little bit of an easier time catching the impala rams at the moment, because it's the impala rat at the now. So all those impala rams are busy fighting one another and quite distracted. And then on top of that, they're also often breaking legs and poking each other's eyes out in these fights, and that's they're a lot easier to catch because they're not paying attention and because they probably injured in those fights.
Rosalind McConnell asking which pride. I think you're referring to the fight. There's a few questions here about the fight. Jonathan asking, have you got video of the two prides clashing? I think Pieter has just uploaded it to YouTube now. So if you go onto our YouTube channel, Mala Mala Game Reserve's YouTube channel, you should be able to see it up there. If it's not up there yet, it should be up there very shortly. And it was the Kambula pride who fought with the Marthy pride. The Marthy pride only consists of the one lioness and her cub currently. That happened a few days ago.
So Pete says he uploaded it now while we were busy with the live stream, so maybe a couple of you could pop onto the Mala Mala channel quick and see if it is there. We can't because we're using our phones for this part of YouTube, and I'd hate to cut off one just to double check on Pete's homework.
Buck Rogers asking, saying what a great sighting. Thank you guides from the US in San Diego. You're welcome, Buck. And then Bev, how many male lions per pride? What happens to male cubs when they grow up, and are more lionesses born than male cubs? So the number of male lions in a pride, and I'm assuming you mean adult male lions, can vary greatly. It depends on how many other lions are in the area. It depends on a number of factors, but in this area where there's a high density of predators, there tends to be a coalition of male lions that will hold a territory, and very often that territory has a number of prides of lions territories who fall within that coalition of male lions territory. When we talk about a pride, we're talking about adult lionesses and their cubs, cubs being male and female. When the male cubs get to the age of about 2, 3, sometimes a little bit older, depending on the pressures around them again, they will leave the pride and become nomadic until they get to a point where they're strong, fit and confident enough to hold their own territory. And when it gets to that point, they will then try and push another male out of its territory and effectively take over the prides within that male's territory. And the way they do that is by killing, or first of all chasing the male lion out of his territory, and then killing all the cubs in an existing pride. And they do that, and it brings the females back into estrus, and then they can mate with the females and pass on their own genes. So I hope that answers your question. And then, there's a second part of that question. Are more lionesses born than male cubs? I wouldn't say that, but I think male cubs, both leopards and lions, are maybe slightly more adventurous than the females, and maybe get themselves into trouble a bit more often than the females.
So for all animals, it's always going to be 50-50 males to females. Partly that's just how, when that egg and sperm cell meet, it depends how those chromosomes kind of land, but it will always be a 50-50 chance of being XX or XY.
Then Dizzy1369 saying it is up, popped into the notifications, it's there, so you're welcome to have a look at it. And then any more updates on the Marthy lioness and her cub? The last live stream we had 2 days ago with the northern Avoca male, Gnut found the cub in Marthy, one of the farms on Mala Mala. So we know for certain that the cub is okay. And we think we've seen tracks of the lioness in that area, but they haven't been seen since. And Mita Karantha asking, are there no males with the Marthy pride? Mita, one of these males actually mated with a lioness from the Marthy pride. So that cub belongs to one of these Gari males.
So you might hear some, sounds like shouts in the background. It's the baboons who've just noticed these lions. They actually live in those trees over there. I'm going to leave the camera on the trees for a second. You might actually see some movement in the trees, but that's all the baboons going to sleep. They roost in those trees every night, and they're not going to be too thrilled that the lions have decided that this is where they're going to spend their day.
Then
You can just see the one baboon jumping around.
in Macfunwal is their mating season for lions. Not really. It's not like impalas or some of the other animals you get out here that have very that give birth at very specific times of the year, or mate at specific times of the year.
Right, folks, so you can see the camera is also starting to get a little bit grainy because it's getting quite dark. Again, it seems a lot brighter on screen than it is actually in real life.
And then Ranger Boy hashtag hate hunting worked for FCAM Live and Wild at Mala Mala in 2001, and very complimentary about our game viewing here. Yeah, thank you, Ranger Boy. We're very lucky with our game viewing here. And then Preet Sunny asking, is the color of the sand naturally pink? It does have a bit of a pink tinge to it, and that's because of the feldspar in the sand. So effectively the sand that we're looking at is granite that is weathered down into the sand, and there's a lot of feldspar in granite as well as quartz and other minerals, and feldspar has a pinkish tinge, but at the moment there's a bit of a sunset that is making the sand look more pink than it usually does.
You can see the sunset.
Then Jonathan asking, are some lions related to other lions from rival prides? So that Marthy, this pride, this is part of the breakaway Marthy pride, right?
Yeah, so it depends on how you want to look at it, but they're certainly family, the Kambula pride and the Marthy pride. But the Marthy pride got very big at one point and broke away into two groups, so we refer to them as the Marthy pride and the breakaway Marthy pride. And then the Kambula pride broke away from the breakaway Marthy pride, so it's the breakaway pride. Sorry, we thought they were going to roar for a second there. So it's, yeah, rather than call them the breakaway or from the breakaway pride, we just stuck to, or renamed it the Kambula pride.
Starting to get a little bit vocal now. If they do start roaring, we'll certainly keep quiet. Then just Ranger Boy saying that Kim Wallerton used to do a lot of filming on Mala. He's very quiet lately. I think he's based up in Zimbabwe currently. He's quite active on Instagram, so you can go and have a look at him there.
Focus.
I think it's just because it's getting dark now. In fact, so the quality is getting a bit poor now, just because there's not much light around anymore. So we probably will be ending this live stream pretty soon. And yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to all of you that joined us today. And please join us again. It's always fun chatting with you all. And if you would like to see some of the other animals on Mala Mala, some of the sightings that we are not able to live stream, please go and have a look at our YouTube channel, and you can see all the other prides and leopards and all the other predators and other animals, some of the smaller stuff as well that we get here. And just want to say thanks to Nadav again, who's helped us along with this live streaming experience.
Alright, I think, and then from myself, also just thanks to everyone, and again, thanks to Nadav, as always on the ball. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can also say goodbye to the terror of the frogs of Zululand.
Alright, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Tubbs. And to Gareth,
Thanks, folks.
I can't even see you because of the sunset.
Okay, well, that's not too bad. Anyway, thanks. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to next time.
Alright, and then thanks from myself. Please like and subscribe to Later Sightings and Mala Mala's YouTube channel. We'll see you soon, I hope.